Hey, Aaron, thanks so much for getting the podcast growth audit. I have just completed it, and now I want to walk through it with you, give you my overall thoughts, add a little bit of context to this document that you'll be getting a copy of. So, first of all, your goal to broaden your listener base and create more lead gen for you and your guests has been noted. I will get to that. I do want to say that when I click on the new generation leader.fm link, I get an SSL error. So I don't know if you are aware of that, but looks like you do not have an SSL certificate for this domain. It also looked like it might have redirected to the .com. So just something to be aware of. Okay, as far as directories go, here's your list. Great job. You're missing from iHeartRadio, Player.fm, Pandora, and Spreaker. Those are, I don't even know if I'm on Spreaker yet. I don't think I should probably audit my own podcast. So like these, you can easily find ways to submit to these. I do have two asterisks. One is YouTube, which we'll get to. The other is Castro. Your show has not been updated in Castro since October. And I'm wondering if maybe like you changed feeds and that didn't redirect, but I would just double check that. Okay, so title, description, artwork. Title, super nitpicky. I would, if it was me, I would remove my name from the title. You want to put your name in the title if like you're a super well-known quantity. Otherwise, first of all, it shows up twice here, right? Because it's you and you are, like it's going to just list your name anyway. And so it's a little bit long. But again, that's not like a big deal. That's just nitpicky. Because in general, I think this is a good title. I suspect that it makes a lot of sense to your target audience. So, now if it doesn't, I mean, your whole brand is built around this, so I don't think you need to change the name really. Okay, the description, great job on the description. You do a nice, you define the audience, and then you tell them what they're going to get from the podcast. I would reword the second sentence, right? The new generation leader builds your toolkit for high performing teams, increases your profits, and makes a significant impact in your community. Just the new generation leader, right? The name is already there. And it takes up, you can see like quite a bit of real estate in that description. So it also, like it shows the line breaks. I don't know if you can see there's about 3 spaces between the first period and then the start of the next sentence. So I would maybe optimize that. It should be like a movie synopsis, 2 or 3 sentences all in a row. So I might say something like, now it's time to build your people strategy. Get a toolkit for high performing teams, increase your profits, and make a significant impact on your community or in your community. So that way, like that will probably all fit because significant impact is just cut off. So now like you grab them and you tell them what they're going to get in the first 2 sentences. And that's huge. Most podcasts don't do that. So that's the description note that I would make. Artwork, I like it overall. I might make you a little bit bigger or probably remove the hashtag and the copyright in the bottom. And then make the tagline a little bit bigger because people are going to be scrolling. So they're going to be looking for something that stands out. If you're bigger, your face is going to stand out. And then that tagline, like become the kind of leader the digital world needs you to be, right? You're highlighting the transformation there. So I might make that a little bit bigger. I might say, like become the leader, become the best leader for the digital world or something like that, right? Like a little bit more punchy, a little bigger so people see that as they scroll. But overall, I like the artwork. Okay, review of episode titles and descriptions. Let's jump over to Apple Podcasts for this so you can see what people see when if you haven't done this, I recommend you look at your podcast in various directories. Obviously I did that. That's what you've paid me to do. But just so you can see for yourself, right? Get a feel of what people are seeing. You've done a great job of not including episode number in the title. And in general, your titles are um, performance or solution or problem based. And so I think that's a really good job. I do think that, I think you got Dr. Benjamin Ritter. I don't know if I just know him from the creator space or if he's an actual known quantity, but if you have well known guests, I would put their name at the end of the title, right? So I'd say something like, where is he? Um, the three C's of self leadership with Dr. Benjamin Ritter, or how to become an effective executive with Dr. Benjamin Ritter, right? Because again, like you want to highlight that's a name that grabs attention, right? And this is our whole job in the directories to grab attention. Um, you don't really do the in this episode thing, which is great. What I might do is I have this note here, right? I might pull on that curiosity thread a little bit more, right? So the find your leadership mind shift here in this description, it says like from having fun at work to staying focused on what matters in the digital age. This episode covers a wide range. So I might say like, do you wonder how to stay focused on what matters in the digital age? What about having fun at work? Today's guest, Daryl Evans, talks about all of that and more. Something like that, right? Where it's like, again, like you have the title and now you just want to pull on that a little bit more as people are kind of scrolling by wondering if they should listen to this latest episode. So that's my note on the descriptions. Your call to action. Nice work. I suspect that, I mean, I don't want to take credit for this, but maybe this feels like a result from our call. So maybe, but great job. I would make it a little bit more specific, right? And so I want to highlight here a couple of things, right? So first of all, you're sending people to this page, and when they land on it, I have a gigantic monitor, and I still don't see the opt-in box, right? So most people who land on your page are probably going to see something like this. Again, I have a gigantic monitor, so I see even more of the page than usual. And then your opt-in is like at the bottom, it doesn't stand out. So what I would do is, first of all, make your call to action. If you want people to get on your mailing list, make it a little bit more specific, and maybe to a specific lead gen, right? So, do you want the top tips on how to tune to develop your people strategy or something like that, right? I'm sorry, I'm a little out of my depth as far as your area of expertise goes, but something like that to get people onto your mailing list a little bit, right? More tools and tips. I mean, that's good. My opt-in though is an additional thing. It's the podcast booster blueprint. So this is the other thing I would recommend, is have a dedicated landing page that you're sending to people, right? So I send people to podcastliftoff.com/blueprint. This is why they should opt in. This is really the only action that they should take on this page. But I also have this quick upsell at the bottom here. So this has been pretty effective for me. A lot of people have been coming in through the blueprint page, and the podcast is really the only place I support it. So, or I promote it rather. So I would recommend that. Make sure opting in is obvious. I might have a dedicated page for that. Because you want to entice them to do it. You don't want them to work too hard, right? We're a very fickle species, and you want to make sure that you're sending them to a place where they can easily find what they're looking for, especially if the value is there. So like if the value is a free ebook, and that it can be like 10 pages or 5 pages or whatever on my framework for being a people first business or whatever. I think that'll go a long way. Okay, your intro. You have some stereo mono issues with the call to action. So what I would do is I would take the exact one that you recorded and just make sure when you export it, that it is exported in mono. Because what was happening for me was I was getting some of you in my left ear, some of you in my right ear, sometimes both, like twice, once in each ear. And so that's something I noticed in general, right? Your call to action was louder than your cold open. And then your intro was louder than your cold open. So I would make sure that like you're leveling everything properly. Gosh, I wish I had the number off the top of my head. I think it's like negative 92 decibels is like the proper level, but I don't know that, so don't take my word for it. I would just make sure, and like I think Descript will do this, will auto level everything. Certainly other ones will, like Audition or whatever. I love the cold open followed by the intro though. Great work on that. I think you did a nice job of teeing up the problem, introducing the guest, rolling into the intro, and then rolling into the interview. The only thing I would say is that you kind of had the tell us what you're doing question at the beginning, where the guest reiterated some of the things that you said in the cold open. And so I would just let the guest know, hey, I'm going to intro you later, so I just want to dive right into the stuff, right? So I'm going to ask you right off the bat, what's important to someone making a life change in their mid-40s or whatever. And then that will be the jump off for the rest of the conversation, right? So because it did get a little bit repetitive there. And we have about 2 minutes, right? And so you had your call to action, great. Cold open, great. Intro, great. And then basically like some of the cold open was reiterated, and that's when people might say like, oh, well, sounds very repetitive, right? Again, listeners are a very fickle mistress. So that's the thing I would keep in mind moving forward. I have more thoughts on that in a minute. I have about 3 minutes. I want to keep this like 15 minutes. I'm definitely going over. Podcast swaps are there. Recommended strategies. Sell your services. You mentioned that, you want more lead gen, so I'll dive into that in a minute. There could be sponsorship opportunities as well, right? So you have a mailing list. I would email that mailing list and say like, hey, what problems are you having? What brands do you like? And then when they mention brands, go to those brands and say, hey, my people love you. Do you want to sponsor my podcast? Okay. So all of the open threads that I had, YouTube, it looks like you haven't posted there in about 9 months. Put your back catalog there, start putting the episodes there again. I'm going to guess you probably switched hosts at that time and they were auto posting to YouTube and they don't anymore, because that would also explain like the Castro issue. If you want this to generate leads for you, I recommend having at least one episode a month where it's just you, so that people can learn your expertise and focus on your expertise. Because when you are a guest, it's a little trickier because you want to focus on the guest and their expertise, but then it's a little bit trickier to let your expertise shine through. So I would have at least one episode a month, maybe even do a few live coaching calls of your own or flip the script, right? Where you're putting your authority on display. That coupled with a more specific CTA should do a pretty good job of lead gen. If you want this to generate more leads for your guests too, make sure to ask where people can find them and have that link prominently in the show notes. So your homework, the 4 things that I think you need to do next in the order in which I think you need to do them. More podcast swaps. If you want to grow your listener base, you need to do it by going on other people's podcasts and doing podcast exchanges. So start with the 5 that I gave you, but also look for places where you might be a good guest. Make your call to action more enticing by having something more specific than the general newsletter sign up. Create a dedicated email newsletter subscription page and start doing more solo episodes. That's everything. Thanks so much, Aaron. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or a question video in Zip message here, and I will be sure to respond. Thanks.